USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the lovely Lauren Hersey.
Hey Jim, how's it going?
Well, I made an interesting purchase recently. As I was mentioning as we were pre-gaming, I blame this totally on your husband.
As you should. We should always blame Eric Hersey.
But he's the one who reached out to me and said, "Hey, have you seen the cool new Count Chocula boxes?" And I said, "Well, what's cool about the new Count Chocula boxes?" Well, Jim Henson, the people at Henson have done something with them because they have the characters, and we'll get to the other characters in a moment, in puppet form. And so he sent me a picture, and they do, in fact, look really cool. And so I end up at my local Shaw's earlier this week, and it's one of these things where it's like, I'm a diabetic. I'm not allowed to eat this stuff. All right, but I bought all three. I bought the Count Chocula, I bought the Berry, I bought the, Franken Berry. And I largely bought them because the back of the box, what's interesting about this deal is, what is it? It's celebrating 70 years of a monstrous legacy, the Jim Henson Company. And if you think about all the great, Cookie Monster and Grover and all of the great monsters that are out there. And that's what's so much fun about these boxes is the backs are covered with photos of wonderful classic Henson monsters and not just, stuff from the Dark Crystal, stuff from Labyrinth. I mean, they're quite defined. But again, I got cereal I can't eat at my house now.
And they're collector's items. Put those on the shelves, sir. And listen, I got to tell you a funny story. You do not know this. Mm-hmm. So we're weird. I mean, you do know that much. So during Halloween, we like to watch like David S. Pumpkins, like Saturday Night Live or whatever. Mm-hmm. And last year, and I think it was actually on Halloween night, we went on YouTube and we started watching every single old like Count Chocula, Boo Berry, like that, franchise of series commercials from like, I don't even know when they came out, like the 70s maybe. Oh, yeah. And so we watched every single like Count Chocula commercial that was ever created on Halloween.
Well, interesting that you say that, because I want to say General Mills and Henson actually created at least one little short film where these puppets are talking about, hey, we're back, and don't we look great?
Yeah, do you think the timing has anything to do with the Muppets anniversary, or is it just the founding of the company, and so they're reimagining them as puppets?
I do not know what to tell you there. In fact, I've been meaning to reach out to the folks at General Mills or Henson to see if somebody is willing to talk about this. But what's interesting about this, folks, is that Lauren and I got chatting off to the side here, and then we got talking about Disney and cereal, and well, that brings us to the feature today. But before we get to the feature, we got the news. And before we got the news, we have to acknowledge our sponsor. And this episode of I Want That Too is brought to you by our friends at UnlockMagic.com, the same trusted team behind the DVC rental store and the DVC resale market. And if you're planning a Disney trip, they've got the best deals on Walt Disney World tickets, including the lowest prices on party tickets for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, and even Jollywood Nights, which, by the way, Muppets are going to be there too in the Disney Holidays at Hollywood show. So whether it's your next big family vacation or a quick weekend getaway, visit unlockedmagic.com to grab the very best ticket deals and make your next trip a little bit more magical. Now, interesting that I mentioned there, Mickey's Not So Scary, because as we get to our first news item, it's about the Disney villains, right? You found something kind of interesting going on the villain side of the street, right?
Yes, villains, yes. Disney business insight side of the show. But you remember back in February, it was a big deal. The internet exploded when Bath and Body Works partnered with Disney on a princess line.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes. Okay. And I remember I bought all of the wallflowers and dissected them. And so it was ultra successful. So it does not surprise me that we are now getting a Disney villains collection. So they want to try to level up. And I think that they're doing this obviously near Halloween. One, because it makes sense, but like the pumpkin spice fall scent market is getting pretty saturated. So I think they're like, okay, well, what's a differentiator for us? And, I think that this deal is a kind of a win-win for Disney and Bath and Body Works because, Disney, we talked about I think it was the last episode, that Disney is doing record-breaking numbers for their licensing, like $62 billion last year. And so this is just another example how Disney is leaning into that because they're not assuming any of the risk, right? Bath and Body is doing the marketing. They don't have to worry about products, producing products, and then Disney just cashes the check, which is sweet for them.
True.
And Bath and Body is trying to expand internationally, and Disney IP is a way to do that. So we, the fans, are benefiting from this business deal in a big way with villains coming to Bath and Body. So it kicks off for early access for the reward members August 26th and 27th.
Wow,
so
later this week. How cool.
Later this week, yeah. So by the time this show drops, you can get on and see what you can get your hands on. And if you're not a rewards member, and you want to take advantage of this, which I highly suggest that you do, just sign up. It's free. Because if not, the whole line has a general release on September 3rd. I did pop in to Bath & Body over the weekend just to see if there was any, little teasers or they're setting up or anything, and they were not yet. So I'm so excited for this. And it looks like, normal Disney, they're going kind of the influencer route. So I did watch some unboxings. It reminded me of Universal a little bit with their presentation. But big difference. And I want to get your opinion on this.
Well, toward that end, I mean, face it, the initial, what sort of kicked open the door here, Disney Princess Collection. I mean, that was focused on what? Lighter, more whimsical stuff. So how does one make villain-scented stuff? Who, and more to the point, which villains are we actually talking about?
Yeah, I think it's weird. So the Princess Collection launched with 6 princesses. We're getting 2 villains. As of right now, we're getting Maleficent and Evil Queen. Maleficent is like plum and berry kind of. And then Evil Queen is obviously like apple. Apple, pear, vanilla. So I'm okay with that. But do you think it's odd that we got 6 princesses and only 2 villains to start?
Well, I mean, face it, it's not, you look at Ursula and it's like, yeah, okay, low tide. It's like, some of these characters don't lend themselves to scent lines. On the other hand, I mean, face it, Maleficent and the Evil Queen, I mean, they are elegant, and so, it's like, all right, elegant, stylized. So, those are terms you can work with when you're talking about scent.
Yeah, I think we will get, I think we'll get an Ursula. Maybe we'll get a Hades. Maybe it'll smell like a campfire. I don't know. Pick a villain. What would you think they would smell like? I guess maybe that's the reason we only got 2.
I was about to say, I don't want to smell what Oogie Boogie smells like. Okay.
I do.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
but I do have to give the disclaimer. So, if we learned a lesson from princesses, that this stuff, by the time it hits the general open, will be picked over. Because, people are going to get on, you're going to get resellers and everything else. So, if there's something that you want to grab, I would highly recommend you hop on the 26th or 27th to get that early access, and I will be doing the same.
Okay, got it. Okay, moving on to story number 2 now, which is kind of a sad reflection of the retail space these days.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about this before. So if you are a Disney reseller, no shade to you. But Disney is trying to crack down on the resellers because, their whole mantra is about creating happiness and making sure that guests are satisfied. We had our friends, they went down for one of the race weekends and they did the races. Michael did the dopey. And by the time they were able to go get the race merch, it was gone. Like the resellers had picked over everything and they really couldn't get what they wanted. So that doesn't leave you very satisfied after you just busted your butt and, ran a race. So
No, of course. I mean, face it, you want the shirt. You earned the shirt. And in fact, I think that's what's a little aggravating about the resellers is, look, you bought the shirt, all right? And then you turned around and sold it to somebody else who didn't take part in the event or that sort of thing for a ridiculous markup. I mean, it's not nice.
It's really not nice. And so Disney is trying to, dissuade people from doing this by locking up the merch, essentially. So instead of you being able to just go grab, 5, and I just read an article, I think it was last week, that they stopped doing a lot of the mobile checkout at Disneyland for this reason. So now they're taking it a step further and saying, yeah, you could get 2 items, but you're going to have to ask for these. And so I think there's a mixed bag there. If you are the reseller, you're not really happy, but if you're actually a paying guest, you're probably thrilled about this. So, pros and cons to everything. But this isn't new. This is not new news. Disney is always testing different things out for merch.
Oh, sure.
I mean, Jim, what time did we have to wake up in the morning last summer for D23 to try to get a virtual queue for Mickey's of Glendale?
I still remember, Angela, we're there in the hotel room. The alarm goes off at 4. And it's really? 4? Just for an event inside of a convention center? And it's this is true. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're trying different things out and, I support it. And I think we're going to be seeing more of this as, people are finding ways to make money online. But Disney, it is the intent to return that they are focused on. And so they're going to try to put the kibosh on any of those loopholes people are finding.
Okay. And I mean this in the kindest possible way. I hope this works because I only saw it earlier this week and I didn't know I needed a Stitch as a mummy popcorn bucket.
Why not? I mean, it's not every day you get Stitch as a mummy.
There we go.
Oh, by the way, so Eric sent me a screenshot from Twitter. Did you see some of the new Muppets merch with the Muppet Labs?
No. Is this something that they're showing off at Destination D at the Kingdom this weekend?
I am thinking so. So the X post, I guess, that Eric screenshotted and was like, "I'm buying 10 of these." It didn't say specifically, but we all know that Destination D23 and this year's theme is a journey around the worlds of Disney. We know that that's happening. That's coming, the 29th through the 31st, like Jim said, at Disney World. And there are, 3 different Muppet collections that we will get to in a sec. But when I was on the website, did you know that D23 has a sponsor? Like there is a presenting sponsor of D23, like a company sponsoring a company.
Wow. I mean, I'm always intrigued. In fact, Shul and I are working on a show for Disney Unpacked now that initially started about Disney sponsors, but we sort of narrowed it in now on the corporate lounges around Epcot Center. But, it was always fascinated where you'd go into the bathroom at Disney and you'd be washing up and it's like, really? Bounty? Okay. Oh, no, excuse me, Brawny. Just the whole notion of, would have loved to be in that meeting. You'll be in every bathroom in Walt Disney World. People will have to see you. So who is sponsoring?
Yeah, so we talked about, I think we've mentioned Lug before on this podcast, and I had to Google it to refresh my memory. But Lug is this year's Destination D23 sponsor, and they were last year. And they sell bags, purses, backpacks, belt bags, any type of bag, right? And I'm like, were they in the meeting that was like, what should we call this Destination D23? Oh, our sponsor is bags. Maybe we'll go around the world this time.
There we go. And be sure to buy souvenirs and put them in your bag. So,
yeah,
all right.
The end. But one of the, I thought the greatest parts about D23 was the shopping. And I know that like you and Len mentioned on the Disney Dish, so there's no parks panel or anything, like that they've announced yet for this Destination D23, but they will have the shopping.
Well, to face it, these are Disney's most dedicated fans. But at the same time, we live in a world of you don't have pictures or the merch, that you don't have the shirt that says you were at the event, you weren't there. Again, getting back to the Disney racing thing. If you do a marathon, you want to casually go into work. It's like, hey, you like my Tinkerbell shirt? Oh yeah, I did run 26 miles. Thank you for asking.
I didn't even get my stinking shirt. But anyways, so the pop-ups for Destination D23, we're getting Mickey's of Glendale, which would be only available to cast members. It's just Imagineering, right? That's Mickey's of Glendale. You're getting the Walt Disney Company store and then the Ink and Paint Marketplace. Oh, and the Disney Studio store, Hollywood, at this event. So lots of options for shopping. And some of the collections, we are getting the Passport collection. That's their primary. And you can see in these pictures, I don't know with the Passport, like, do you see Passport in these like designs?
Well,
it looks like a periodic table. Guy with the black T-shirt. I don't know.
To be honest, yeah, that does kind of look like you could walk up to that guy and make an iPhone call.
Yeah.
Okay, so
all
right.
No thoughts on that one. But it says global icons, park abbreviations, and transit themes. A minimalistic aesthetic connecting Disney's worldwide destinations.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of in the mech category myself, but all right. All right.
Not the best. Not the worst. But next up is Disney Destinations, keeping with the travel theme. And now this one, I'm wondering if you love it a little bit because this is artwork inspired by the Mary Blair, and this was designed by Imagineer Tyler Krantz. So you're getting those classic characters like Dumbo, Goofy in a prop plane, the little solid eye orange bird. I get, this is a vibe.
Well, a total side story here for a sec.
Yeah.
A Disney Dish listener reached out last week, and she actually attended a workshop for, no lie, Lauren, someone is putting together a musical called Ink and Paint, and it's about the women who did Ink and Paint at Disney Studios. And among the characters in this show is Mary Blair.
No.
Yeah, and evidently, the attended the workshop. And by the way, Sierra Bogris, who actually played Ariel in the stage version of Disney's Little Mermaid, was in this workshop playing one of the women who worked in Disney's Ink and Paint department. And it said it was very promising. So, it just, the weird thing, it's fun that you mentioned Mary Blair, because potentially she's going to live on in a whole different way very soon on stage. So.
Oh, Jim, that is so amazing. And I feel like that could be a home run.
Same thing here. Just have asked to be kept in the loop, and when there's more news to report, or when the public can actually go eyeball this thing, believe me, I'll be there. So
yeah, we'll keep you posted on that one. All right, so now we're back to the Muppets. Lots of Muppets going on. The weirdest thing ever, though, is that there's really no pictures. Like, if you were wondering, like, normally I try to like pop a picture or two in here, but like it just says the Muppet Studio, and with the collections, we're not really seeing much. But there are 3 drops that are happening during Destination D23, and I'm assuming that we'll see some of this on the Disney Store as well. So there is a black and gold collection. So this one has the spirit jerseys and the hats. Okay. There is a Kermit takeover capsule, and this one is all bright green, obviously focused on the man, well, I guess the frog, Kermit. And this last one, it's Muppet 70. It says number 1 through 35 collection, which is like the nostalgic line, and this is celebrating the first 35 Muppets.
Interesting.
Specifically.
Okay.
Sorry I don't have much more other than the fact there are, not 1, not 2, but 3 drops during this weekend.
Well, okay. Then, we'll be recording a show this time next week. So, I'm sure we'll have more information then.
We'll have all kinds of stuff by then.
Okay. So we'll chat more about that. But also remember, we just in this past week got all sorts of news about the Muppet redo of Rock and Roller Coaster. And they showed us exterior of the building. They showed us what's going to go on in the pre-show. What they have not showed us, and remember, this is a key component of the old, Rock and Roller Coaster setup. They have the giant post-show shop. And there's a lot of shelves in there for some really cool Muppet merch, which let's be honest, we never got with Muppet Vision 3D. So it's like, okay, it's time. Let's see it.
Can I ask you, do you know, why they would have released all of that concept art and everything before Destination D23?
I think, to be completely honest here, in fact, it was a media event deliberately held ahead of D20, the Destination D. There's something going on in the company. The notion is there's something specific thing they want to do with Destination D, but they don't necessarily want people at that event forever obsessed with, well, what's going on with the Rivers of America? What's going on the other side of the fence there within Kanto? There's the Journey Around the World thing that they want to do at this event. So, it was deliberately done to put that info out there in advance. So it's like, look, we told you. You don't expect to hear about this this year. We told you.
I guess. Oh, hey, I did forget to mention that there are a couple panels that are going to be streamed for people at home. So August 30th at 10:30 Eastern, and then another one Sunday, August 31st at 2 p.m. I'm sure that the things that they're streaming are probably, long commercials for something that they're doing internationally. But if you can't make it, you can stream it a little bit.
There you go. Okay, so, all right, that brings us to the end of the news portion of the show. Going to take a quick break here, but then we'll get back. We're going to talk Disney cereal and look back at the early days of Disney merchandising. But first, this.
Hey, it's Paris. I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and Auto Camp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. Okay, so last week, Lauren, she sends me an email. She says, do you think maybe there's a feature piece for I Want That Too in Disney cereal? And me, because I'm a moron, I actually say out loud to this woman, geez, I don't know, that seems like an awfully narrow topic to build a story around. But let me look. All right, so I look. And I'm now here to admit, well, I just did. I was a moron. I'm here to eat my words, which is appropriate. It's a cereal story.
And a bowl of cereal.
I eat a bowl of cereal. Because just in the past 10 years, there has been a Finding Dory cereal, a Moana cereal, a Hocus Pocus 2 cereal, a live-action version of the Disney's Little Mermaid cereal, a Mickey Mouse Clubhouse cereal, a Lightyear cereal, and not one but 2 different Disney 100 cereals. And given, Lauren, that I'm the one who does most of the grocery shopping here at the Stadler Hill Estate, I'm honestly kind of embarrassed that I never noticed any of these, but all right. I to be fair, I do most of our grocery shopping at Target, and the Target does not have the world's biggest cereal aisle. So maybe they didn't carry a lot of this limited edition Disney stuff. And I mentioned earlier in the show, I'm a diabetic, and so for example, the Count Chocula box I bought, I can't eat that stuff. So what I'm going to do is you literally take the plastic bag of cereal out of the box, keep the cardboard, and then I run it one town over to Goffstown. There's a church here that is a food bank, and they're always happy to take this stuff. And then some kid gets each Count Chocula or Blueberry or Franken Berry.
And they're going to say, Jim, where's the box?
Well, there we go. All right, come to my basement. Open a Tupperware. Okay, all right. Anyway, those Disney cereals I mentioned earlier all came out under the Kellogg's brand. Whereas if we want to get back to the very start of when people seated at their breakfast table first encountered the Disney characters, that, Lauren, would be 1934. And this would have been when Kamen signed a deal for Walt Disney Productions with Gem Foods to put Mickey Mouse and his friends on the back of every Post Toasty box in North America for a full year. Now, Lauren, I have we ever talked about Kamen before?
I don't think so.
Okay, because you would love this guy. He's absolutely fascinating. And more to the point, most of the Disney merch that we know and love today exists because of deals that Mr. Kamen signed with various corporations on Walt and Roy Disney's behalf.
He's not the one that tried to license a Disney notebook and like give him $50 in the lobby, was it?
No. Though, it's so interesting to bring that guy up. All right, because face it, if we jump back to the late 1920s, early 1930s, Walt and Roy are still getting the hang of running Disney Studios, and let's be honest, there was touch and go there for a lot of years. Which is why when somebody walks up to Walt in the lobby of a hotel and says, "Here's $300, give me the rights to put Mickey Mouse on a writing tablet," and Walt's like, "Sold!" I mean, you got to remember, Disney wasn't making animated features then; they were making shorts, which meant, first of all, they couldn't release the films. They had to go to one of the majors, a Columbia, a United Artists, and they would distribute their features, which meant that, Disney isn't getting the full amount of money that they would get from ticket sales for the portion of the show. They were getting a teeny tiny chunk. In fact, it wasn't until Three Little Pigs came out in May of 1933, and thanks to its catchy theme song, Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf, becomes this long-running pop culture phenomenon. And it's only at that moment, and remember, Steamboat Willie came out in 1928. So, 5 years in, they finally get a little breathing room. But then again, by then, Kamen had been out signing merchandise deals for the Disneys for a year at that point, and the studio likely was having much better cash flow at that point, again thanks to Kay's efforts. All right, so how does Kay come into Walt and Roy's life? Well, Lauren, as the story goes, Kay Kamen is this gifted salesman who'd carved out a really unique niche for himself back in the late 1920s, early 30s. He's the guy who'd contact animation studios and then, on their behalf, sign licensing deals for them, with the notion that Kay would be the representative who goes to toy companies and then arranges to make, stuffed toys of Felix the cat. Anyway, Kamen's company operates out of Kansas City, Missouri, which, of course, given Walt's strong ties to that city, by the early 30s, Disney is already being hailed as local boy makes good. But here's the thing. Kay, from his office back in Kansas City, is looking at Mickey Mouse-related things. Look at this writing tablet. Right. I'm just thinking, geez, Walt is really missing out on some huge opportunities when it comes to merchandising the mouse. And more to the point, the goods that are out there are so poorly made. And more to the point, the likenesses of Mickey aren't really that great, that he feels like, you're damaging the fledgling Disney line. And so Kay decides to take a chance. And in 1932, he writes this letter to Walt and Roy, where he plays up the, "Hey, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, too," but then goes into a sales pitch, which says, in essence, "I could do so much better a job than you guys. What you're currently doing with licensing Mickey Mouse and the other Disney characters. Can I please come talk to you and explain how I could go about doing that?" And wonders of wonders, Walt and Roy write back, and it's like, "Hey, okay, we saw what you did with Felix, and that's some top quality stuff. Plus, you are a Kansas City boy, so yeah, sure, come out to LA. Let's talk." And now thinking that he might just have a chance at pulling off this deal, Kay, he just does something crazy. He goes to the bank and he takes out his life savings. And by the way, this is $20,000 in 1930s money. You know, it's everything he's made off of licensing other cartoon studios' characters. And he then has that money signed into the lining of his coat.
Why would anybody do that? That sounds like Crazy Town.
Well, you got to remember, it's the 30s. It's not like, you know, I can wire the money or here's a cashier's check. Also, he wanted to make a statement, which we'll get to the statement in a moment. Okay. So anyway, with the remaining money, Kay buys a one-way ticket to LA. Not for the sleeper car, mind you, on the train. Just a seat, you know, where you sit up. And then Kay sits in that seat wearing his fully buttoned suit and then stays up for the entire train trip out to L.A. And once there, he gets a cheap hotel room for the night. And after pushing the bureau against the door and piling up the remaining furniture, he climbs into bed still wearing the suit. And falls asleep. All right, so next morning, after some sleep.
Some uncomfortable sleep, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. So he first unstitches the lining and takes out all the money, and then hides it in various pockets, and hails a cab, which takes him to Disney Studios, and gets there, and Walt's secretary puts Kay in a conference room, and she goes to get Walt and Roy. So while she's gone, he takes all of the money out of his pocket and piles it up on the conference room table, and then lays down the contract that he's put together for Walt and Roy. And so this is what Walt and Roy see as they enter the conference room at the studio in 1932. This giant pile of money. And a smiling but very tired-looking Kay Kamen. And he says to the Disney, he's like, "Hi, I'm Kay Kamen, and this is all the money my company made off of merchandising Felix the Cat. And it's yours. Consider it a signing bonus if you'll agree for 1 year with annual options to renew this contract for the next 10 years to let me merchandise Mickey Mouse and all of the other characters you've created here at Disney Studios." It was, as they say, Lauren, quite the pitch. And I'm told...
I appreciate it. I like it.
I like it too. And I'm told that Walt wanted to sign the deal right there, right then. And, you know, if only so he could then walk away with his pocket stuffed with Felix the Cat cash. Whereas Roy the grown-up, you know, he's like, well, I'd actually like to read the contract.
But this guy came with all this money in his suit.
That's right. But so he and Walt adjourn to an adjoining room, and they're going over the contract. And when they come back in, they find Kay has once again fallen asleep in a chair because he's still exhausted from the train trip out from Kansas City. And the Disneys then begin to quiz Kamen about how exactly are you going to make money for the studio. And Kay explains, well, look, thanks to my company's previous history doing licensing for all these other animation studios, I already have working relationships with all the top manufacturers, and I can ensure right from the get-go that I will be able to negotiate the best possible licensing deals with these companies. I will make sure that any Disney-related toys will be made with only top-quality materials, that they'll have great character likenesses and receive line-of-sight placement on shelves in hundreds of stores around the country. And now, downside, Lauren, Kamen wants half of what Disney makes off of every licensing deal that he signs for the studio. But he promises Walt and Roy that he's going to make so much damn money for Disney that Walt and Roy will never miss that other half. And besides, you know, he points out, look, the agreement, it's for 1 year. You know, it's got options to renew. But, you know, if things don't work out to your liking, end of 33, we three Kansas City boys, we shake hands and we part. And then there was the matter, of course, of that giant pile of money, the signing bonus, and, you know, all of that Felix the Cat cash. And it was like, in the end, it was just too good a deal for Walt and Roy to walk away from, so they signed. And as for Kay Kamen, oh my God, Lauren, you want to talk about making the right deal at the right time. Remember, he signed this deal with Disney in 1932. May 33 is when the Three Little Pigs come on the scene and become this pop culture phenomenon. And then May of the following year, 34, who makes his Disney Studios debut in The Wise Little Hen, which is, again, Silly Symphony short, Donald Duck. And, Kay Kamen licensed the hell out of these new characters to the studios and makes Walt and Roy, and himself, of course, oodles of cash. And then just 3 years ahead, in December of 37, is the absolute merchandising mother lode, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And Kay delivers on everything he promised Walt and Roy and more, which is why a decade later, when Disney's original deal with Kamen's company is finally up for renewal, and by the way, this is the middle of World War II, when times are extremely tough at Disney Studios, Walt and Roy don't even blink, just it gives the deal, another 10 years, absolutely with you, we will do anything. And things go swimmingly till 1949, which is when, we'll get to that part of the story.
Oh, no, okay.
The sad part. On the second half of today's feature.
Love espresso, drip coffee, and cold brew? With the Ninja Luxe Cafe, if you can crave it, you can brew it. Espresso, balanced. Drip coffee, rich. Cold brew in a flash. With Barista Assist technology, you brew with no stress and no guesswork and make perfect silky microfoam hands-free from dairy or plant-based milks. Shop the Ninja Luxe Cafe at ninjakitchen.com.
Una silla de masajes puede parecer extravagante. 8 configuraciones diferentes, intensidad ajustable, además es calefaccionado. Y se siente tan bien. Sí, una silla de masajes puede parecer extravagante. Y 2, bueno, aún más. Pero cuando esas sillas de masajes vienen con un auto, se vuelven bastante prácticas. El nuevo Volkswagen Tiguan 2025 con funciones premium como los asientos delanteros con masaje disponibles. Solo parece extravagante.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
And we're back. Okay, I know we're supposed to be talking about Disney cereal, and we will in a sec. But first, we have to get back to the story of Kay Kamen, Disney's first head of merchandise sales, because no one worked harder for Walt and Roy Disney. Nobody was ever a better salesman for the Disney characters. More to the point, no one was ever smarter about who he sold these characters to. Case in point, Lauren. The deal Kay makes with General Foods back in 1934. This is where he arranged to have Mickey and his pals on the back of every Post Toasty box sold in the United States. Kay got for Disney Studios $1.5 million for that deal, which, by the way, only ran for a year. By the way, according to the inflation calculator, that's $35 million in 2025 dollars, half of which Kay got to keep. But think about it. On the back of each Post Toasty box, by the way, this breakfast cereal sounds so healthy. 3 ingredients: corn, grits, salt, and sugar. So. Right. And by the way, you're supposed to put sugar on it after you have the sugar. Anyway. Okay, but there's a Disney character on the back of that box, which, by the way, after you finish the box of cereal, the instructions on the back of that Post Toasty box tell you that, A, you're supposed to cut out that Disney character and then play with that little cardboard character. And then you're supposed to pester Mom to buy a new box of Post Toasties. And more to the point, make sure that Mom gets a box with a different Disney character on that box. Now, keep in mind, Lauren, this is the Depression. Families don't have a lot of money. But here's a way for kids to start, building an affordable collection of Disney-related toys, using these cardboard things to bond with the Disney characters. And with Kay, keep an eye toward the future with the idea that, well, maybe when this family has a little more money, and given that their son or daughter, now obviously has a fondness for the Disney characters, well, when their birthday rolls around, why not, spend a little money?
Get a little more plushy.
Yeah, no, that's exactly a Mickey Mouse wind-up toy or a Snow White doll, but again, a higher-priced item. And you, especially as the business professional, will love this. Kay then has a guy at General Foods who it then tells him the number of boxes of, Post Toasties, which ones are selling the best, which was what told Kay which Disney character was the most popular at that moment with the American public. So it's literally the earliest form of market research, and this is why Kamen knew very early on that Donald Duck was about to explode, and so he pivots, and it's like, we'll continue to sell Mickey stuff, but no, we're going to sell the hell out of Donald.
We're leaning into the duck.
Yeah, and that's it, and it was such the smart choice. I mean, he was such a smart guy. And more to the point, because his insistence on top quality materials and that sort of thing, this is why so many of the Disney toys and collectibles that were produced back in the mid-30s all the way up to the early 50s have lasted as long as they have. He wanted stuff that would really hold up to the pounding that kids, remember Miles as a small boy?
Remember Miles yesterday?
Well, there we go. All right. So again, he was the right guy for the job, but look, all things have to come to an end. And as for Kay Kamen's stint at Disney Studio, it ended, Lauren, suddenly and tragically.
No.
Yeah, Kay had been on a sales trip to Paris in October of 1949. In fact, he'd finished the trip and he's flying back to New York. Very successful trip. The people in France absolutely loved what he showed them for Cinderella. And it's like, oh yes, we are on board. We want to do a lot of Cinderella product. And the plane, it's a Lockheed L-749 Constellation. It has to make a short fuel stop in the Azores. And landing strip is in sight. Everything seems fine, and then for some unknown reason, the plane crashes into a nearby mountainside, immediately killing Kay, as well as 47 passengers and crew. And the news gets back to Burbank, and Walt is devastated, as is Roy. I mean, they had been working with Kay Kamen for more than 17 years at that point. They trusted him implicitly. They thought of him, not just as a partner, but as a friend.
Yeah.
And the kicker to this story is that they had to build an entire department at Disney, consumer products, building full of people to do what Kay did. And Walt later in his life ruefully noted, and again, full building full of people to replace what one man did. And they don't do it nearly as well as Kay did. So,
Jim, I'm so happy that you went down this road and that you got to share his story.
Mm-hmm. No, and this is the thing, because he died in 49. There's a couple of histories of Disney merch and that sort of thing that talk about the Kay Kamen story, but I wish somebody would do a full-blown life story of this guy, because he's fascinating. He's a really, really colorful guy, and the fact that, think about it, that Walt and Roy trusted him implicitly and gave him that much money.
And gave him 50%? Like, who was doing a business deal for 50%?
Well, but think about how much money he was bringing into the company.
Yeah. During the war, everything else. That was a great story. I'm so glad that I said, how about Disney cereal?
Well, now for that end, next week, I promise, folks, we really, for real, will do the story of Disney cereal, which has a startlingly large amount to do with Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, and there's like an anniversary with Winnie the Pooh. So we're on theme here.
There we are. There we are.
So on that note, I do think it's time we close up shop for today.
Hey, shop, merchandise. It's still on theme. Okay. Anyway, if you want to keep up with everything going on here at the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, please follow us on social. And don't forget to check out our Patreon for bonus shows and early access.
Yeah, and if you like today's episode, make sure to leave us a review.
Speaking of which, though, we always love hearing from you. And if you have suggestions for shows or comments on stories we've done, just shoot us a message. You can reach me at Jim Hill Media. And Lauren, you are Lauren at LaurenHersey.com, right?
Yeah, and if you want to shoot us a message and tell us what your favorite villain smells like, we'd appreciate that too. I mean, like Dr. Facilier, I mean, Oogie Boogie, like the whole nine. Tell us, what do they smell like? Or not, whatever.
Okay. Right.
But that does it for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on I Want That Too.